Everyone was talking about it at school the next day. The news even reached home before I did. As soon as I walked in the door from school, my mum hugged me tight and told me she was sorry to hear about my friend. I guess she hadn't noticed that Tammy Galloway hadn't been to my house in over a year. We hadn't fallen out or anything, so I guess there was no reason for her to assume we weren't still friends. In junior school, me and Tammy were absolutely inseparable. But as we went through secondary school and we had fewer and fewer classes together until year 9, when we didn't have any classes with each other at all. We tried to meet up at lunch, but it got to the point where, when we saw each other in the hall, we pretended not to notice each other. Year 10 though, we ended up back in a bunch of classes together, along with Aidan Mitchell. I have no idea what happened. I remember Aidan from year 7, when he was not fat exactly, just a bit tubby and short, and a bit of a geek. He used to be one of those kids with a non-brand everything and a Star Wars lunchbox. And Tammy was this fun, wise, cracking girl with loads of friends. Now, all of a sudden, Aidan was this tall, slim, angry arsehole decked out in Nike's wishes. He picked on loads of people, but he seemed to really have it in for Tammy, who was now this friendless, spotty, quiet shell. Neither of them were who they used to be. Neither was I suppose. I had a totally different set of friends, and Tammy would always sit in the spare seat on her own. She never said anything back to him. She just sat there and took it. People would laugh, sometimes join in. It just seemed to be relentless. I just kept my head down. I felt terrible, but I wasn't sure what I could do. I did genuinely want to say something, but selfishly I thought, as long as he's not making fun of me. Every night I talked myself up into chatting to her. See if I could ask her how she was. Maybe see if she wanted to sit with us. But when we got to school, that was easier said than done. How do you randomly strike up a conversation with your former best friend, who you haven't had a conversation with in well over a year, and who you've now been in the same class with for the last few months, but have never bothered to chat to her in all that time? The day she killed herself, I had an art lesson with her. Mr. Campbell had left the room for whatever reason, and Aidan took that as his cue to start harassing Tammy. Knowing what happened now, I hate to recall it. It wasn't any worse than any other time, but I guess it was the final straw. He grabbed her school bag and emptied the contents of it onto the floor. Just really randomly. There was no reason. It all went everywhere. Books, gym kits, sandwiches, all sorts of personal items. He just started kicking it all over the place and stomping on stuff as she hurriedly tried to put everything back up. It was just such an immature, mean thing to do. It was so humiliating. Everyone else was laughing and throwing her stuff about. I desperately wanted to tell them to knock it off and help pick her stuff up. But I just couldn't. I didn't have the guts to say or do anything. Thankfully, Campbell walked back in, but it was too late. Now, more than ever, I just wish on that very first day of term, when I found out we were back in the same classes, that I just said hello to her, or asked her to sit with us. I wish I asked her how she was. I feel like a terrible person. I'm sure I always will. I could have done better. I should have done better.